Welcome to the Unclehack Podcast, where dudes pretty much just talk dude shit.
Let's groove with the, you know, right? Let's groove with the, whatever. Upcoming show dates. Oh, God. Let's get through another hour of my dumb ass talking. Why don't we, right? You're enjoying yourself, aren't you? Aren't we all? Aren't we all just enjoying ourselves on this lovely little planet? Welcome to the Unclehack Podcast. Okay. Show dates, upcoming show dates. February 16th and 17th, Niagara Falls. February 22nd, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Then we are in St. John's, New Brunswick, the 23rd and 24th, the 25th in Halifax. February 29th in Winnipeg. No longer the weekend at Yuck Yucks, if any of you guys know anything about that. If you bought tickets to Winnipeg, check your email, please. Hey, we'll chat later about it. March 16th, we are in Drumheller, Alberta. The March 24th, Vancouver, British Columbia. March 8th in Tabor. I know I'm adding things here. March 29th to the 31st in Ottawa, Ontario. April 5th in Toronto, Ontario with Brian Holtzman. There's a Calgary date in there too. I believe it's March 16th. No, March 17th. We are in Calgary with Brian Holtzman again. If you've seen the viral clips that were taking place, you know he's a dog. Really funny stuff. People walking out screaming, "This guy's fucking racist." Fucking. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, I guess you don't. April 11th, Hinton, Alberta. April 12th, Rocky Mountain House. April 13th, Drayton Valley. And then we head off to Plano, Texas. From the 20th to the 22nd, we were with Tramps. Fucking Christ almighty. Fuck. Sam Tripoli at the Plano House of Comedy. And then August 20, holy shit. This is it's been a fucking week. It's been a goddamn week. But, you know what? We'll get through it. We're going to get through this together. You know what? Think of me as like a therapist that just donates his time. You know, those ones that, you know your therapist was going to be good if he walks in and has like a ketchup stain on his suit, you know? Doesn't, like, you can tell that there's health issues. The dark circles underneath his eyes. I had a chiropractor one time that reeked of cigarettes. And it made me feel at home, you know? I don't know why, but the scent, it was like, I trust this guy for some reason. And it shouldn't be like that. When there's any sort of, when you're in a position of health or the practice of health, and I know maybe it's like voodoo fucking witch magic with chiropractors, but when they reek of cigarettes, there's something like, okay, he's obviously good at this. You can't be that confident reeking like cigarettes, right? And be bad at your job. No, you got to be good. When you reek, like, it's almost like that's where this crossover in life of like the blue collar horse shit, right? When a guy has a cigarette in his lips and he's performing a task, there's complete trust in that man of completing the task to exactly the highest of standard. You know, it's a man's ballet dance. That's what it is. When you're watching a fucking dude with a dart hanging out of his lips and he is fixing any item, it doesn't matter. Any like hard labor job and there's a dart and you get the squint, you get the fucking smoke squint going, you know? Or what we would call the safety squint. It's like it's clearly not healthy, but in the same breath, the forced safety squint from the cigarette smoke, it makes it like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to damage my eyes. Somehow, that's a thought. We have that thought. Every guy has that thought. I've done it. When I used to smoke, that's it. You know, you'd have a jet going and wrenching on something and the cigarette smoke's burning your eyes, but you're like, I got to complete the task before I can fucking take the dart out of my lips. And or you just get like the puff blow? You take a puff and it's like, you got to shift how your lips are so you can blow the cigarette smoke out. If the dart's in the left side, you got to clench and like get like out the right side of the mouth without dropping the cigarette. That's a skill on its own. And meanwhile, and they have the audacity to say that men can't multitask. That's what annoys me about this world. Oh, men are dumb. You do that, lady. Let's see you whip up a pasta with a cig hanging out of your lips. You know, we haven't seen that since like the fucking 60s when mom would smoke in the house, whipping up a nice, casserole. Oh, those. I wish we could just exist in that moment in time for a little bit, Let's remove all this noise for a while. That era just looks so nice, didn't it? Now we got too many people thinking that they're advocates or like this first article that we're going to get into. This will make more sense, but we got this self-serving attitude that we have now. It completely annoys me to my core, Like I don't know where I don't know what caused this. I think like spending too much time locked indoors and we got bored and we just like we become advocates, self-proclaimed allies, whatever you want to go with. There was a popular trend there for a minute where it was like you can pat yourself on the back because you put an emoji in your bio. There was that moment in time, and I don't know where that started. I don't know what was the first thing to like translate that online. I know you could be like, well, it's Seinfeld, you got to put on the ribbon. You got to have the ribbon, right? You're not going to put on the ribbon. It's always been around, but once we went digital with it, once the internet really started to take over, we're very lazy, which is saddening, I will give these Palestine protests credit where it's due. At least they're like, maybe the locations of it aren't necessary or the smartest to like achieve your end goal of what, solving the conflict in the Middle East. I don't know what the end goal is, but it's just, at least they have a little bit of the jump to go out in public and scream at people. I'll give them that. That's fun. That's fun. You and your boys getting together, just yelling at people. That's got to be fun. It looks like they're having a good time, They get some chants going. I respect that they get off their ass and go out and do that. You have to, in a sense. And I know it's like, well, they're fucking annoying. Fucking whatever, shut up. It's like, no, fuck, we need this kind of stuff to exist. So that way we have something to talk about. Because then it's like, oh, did you see that, what's his nuts there? Did you see that Ludacris made an appearance at the Super Bowl halftime show? Like, oh, God, I want to hear about, like, Palestine supporters fucking throwing buckets of paint on a Zara front window. That's fun to me. That excites me now. Because, like, we're kind of at this time where it's like fucking, they're like right-wing conspiracy theorists say that the Super Bowl is rigged. Like, it wouldn't surprise me, you know? It wouldn't surprise me. It's not far-fetched to think that sports is rigged. With how present gambling ads are now, whenever you're watching any sport, it's like, hey, are you gambling on the game, you know? To think that it isn't controlled in some sense. I mean, the mob ran boxing for a while back in the day. I imagine they still do. It was just, you know, we know for a fact that they were. And here we live in this world where we're like very naive to think like they would never do something to that like that to us, you know? They would never do something like that. And then you go down the conspiracy rabbit hole and you're like, oh, wow, what do you mean that the CIA funded a movie like Top Gun, which increased recruitment, the recruitment of the U.S. military? What do you mean? What do you mean it was a total propaganda piece to get the, you know, for them gearing up for a war? Oh, what do you mean? That's what convinces me that the Super Bowl might be rigged. And if it is, you know, whatever, who cares? You know, you try and fucking, and I think that's like pushed me away from sports now. I don't find it as interesting. And I don't know what it is. I've tried solving this mystery. I think it's just bitterness of age of watching somebody live out the dream I had as a child. There's probably something like that behind it. You know, you're watching 22-year-old kids do something that you dreamt about since you were a young child, and they're living your dream. You know, here I am. I'm a washed up loser who does a podcast once a week. This dipshit, you know, that's running around the countryside saying very not nice things, but saying not nice things to an audience of people, and they don't, you know, some people that don't go to the show, they get upset. And am I still complaining about being canceled? Yes. Does it annoy me? Yes. You know, you just want to go and tell some fucking jokes. And instead, I gotta sit here and I gotta read headlines about 22-year-olds that are living the dream that I had as a child, smashing hot pussy, making millions of dollars, being a top-notch athlete, but I just could not focus on becoming the athlete. That part was left out. I like to have a couple drinks, you know. I like to have a few cocktails on the weekend, smoke some cigarettes with my friends, make silly jokes, silly little jokes that get you in the principal's office. You know, those types of jokes that get your weekend canceled in Winnipeg. Woo. Am I bitter? No, not entirely. Not entirely. I don't think I'm bitter about it. I think I don't know what I am. I think it's just like the annoyance of the extra work that you got to do to make things happen now. You know, I think that annoys me. It's not so much like eventually it comes around to get you when you're fucking around on the internet. I get that. It's the internet. It's gay. Internet's gay. You got to laugh at it. You got to just like take it in stride, I think, is part of the process. And just like, you got to allow yourself to become the homosexual you were meant to be, right? If you're going to be gay on the internet, you know, imagine me, 33 years old, having to explain to, you know, I don't know who to use in this scenario. You know, it's like a distant relative that doesn't quite know you, and you go to a family reunion, you're sitting there and like, so what do you do? If I didn't have stand-up comedy and I didn't get a lean on it, well, I'm a comedian. If I didn't have that, I go on the internet and I fuck around. And they're like, what do you mean you do that? And they're like, I go and fuck around on the internet like a juvenile retard. They're like, oh, wow. Sounds like you really enjoy it. Yes, I do. But that's the joy. That's the fun. That's the experience. That's my lived experience, okay? But that's like, but here's the thing: is like this is nothing. This doesn't pertain to anything that I previously just talked about. But this era that we're in of like patting yourself on the back, I think a lot of us like I don't know. I come on here. All I do is scream into this microphone like a lunatic. You know, I get my hours worth of horse shit out on here, throw it on the internet, enjoy, laugh at the moron, you know? Bow your heads before me, for I have a podcast. I deserve some respect, you know? It's the same thing as like if I was walking here. Here's the thing, is when I think like a lot of people turn to being an advocate, and the verbiage used in I like to use CBC because they're like, it's just this entity that exists in Canada that has become almost, it's not so much rage baiting, but it's just CBC has turned into that ant that is wealthy and pretends to care, you know? At family dinner, they pretend to care. They're like, oh, wow, you're failing college. Oh, my God, that's so horrible. Could I get another glass of wine, please? You know, they're like in the middle of trying to explain explain their fake feelings towards your situation, right? Oh, my God. Wow. Oh, wow. Cheryl, can you bring me another glass of Merlot? So what are you going to do? You know, it's like that ant that no one really cares. You know, you thought was cool when you were younger because they came around with the trendiest clothes. They were always up to speed with the fashion industry, and you respected them based off the material items that they had. But as you got older, you realized like why everybody has just a deep when she walks in, right? Like when your dad does that. That's the sister-in-law. Your dad goes, oh God, I wish she wasn't here. The next 3 hours are going to be insufferable, and I cannot wait to leave. You know, that's the woman. That's the CBC now. Yeah, you know, we donated our car to 1877 Cars for Kids. You know, we just thought it was a great move on our behalf. Just kind of patting yourself on the back, and they do this with whatever they can get their hands on, and it just produces more of these people that feel like they're doing change, and they I'll just play this. I'm just gonna play this. This tells you the state of the country, right? When the articles are coming out, and this is from Newfoundland. Tent encampments prove exactly how broken Canada's system is. Federal housing advocate says it has to get to the point where we're all homeless, living in tents, for somebody to be like, this is how broken we are. You know, people are freezing to death. This is how bad the country has got. It has to get there before somebody scratches their head and says, I think this isn't supposed to happen. You know, that's how it feels when they put this type of shit. Yes, have you not walked around any major city inside this country? It is a gong show. You can't tell me anybody's walking around feeling like, boy, oh boy, is this Willy Wonka's chocolate factory? Am I in paradise right now? Dear Lord. No, there is a look of like doom across many folks' faces as they're waltzing around to their next job. You know, they're scuttling as fast as they can to the bus stop to hope to God. Let's hope to God that I'm on the right route. I don't know. My brain is fried. I'm on 3 hours of sleep, and I'm heading to my second shift of the day. And as soon as that's done, I gotta go clean offices from 9 to midnight. only to get up at 6 a.m. to put another shift in at some fast food restaurant, because this is how you get ahead in this country. You put your head down and you just work hard. You just need 3 jobs to get ahead, you know? We'll give you rebates. We'll tax you 60% and give you rebates. The rebates, however, are only going to be a couple $100 quarterly. And that should be enough to cover, maybe one cell phone payment. And how dare you not be happy about this? We're doing the best we can in this governing body of feeding you horse shit. Oh, God, here we go. A new report on tent encampments across Canada calls for urgent action from all levels of government to end what the federal housing advocate describes as a life and death crisis. Mary Hosey Houle said her report released Tuesday is the first of its kind in Canada. The report, titled Upholding Dignity and Human Rights, outlines 6 calls to action to address ongoing homeless encampments across Canada. It is physical manifestation of exactly how broken our housing and homelessness system is from coast to coast in Canada. It needs urgent measures, Houle told CBC News. Government must act immediately to save lives. Tents are popping up all across cities in Canada. And finally, this is, this is like you're in the last room of the burning house. The flames are starting to melt your skin. And this is the moment where we look around and we go, I think something's fucking wrong here. We are on our last breath. We are drowning on our last breath. Boy, there's a lot of people urban camping these days. And this is what it takes. This is what it takes. But then the CBC comes around, right? My favorite news organization, who put out a wonderful, if you get time, you can Google it. There's a wonderful CBC interview with a comedian that they were talking. So I have tremendous respect that they're willing to put us in their programming, right? But this is where it gets fun.
Important story, Lorraine. You work on the front lines of this crisis every single day. Were you surprised by what was in that report at all?
No, I'm absolutely not.
This is what I mean by that, Aunt. Were you surprised? Were you surprised that homelessness is rampant across the cities? I mean, we see it outside of our office here every day, but we just want to know if you're surprised. Does it come to any surprise that people are overdosing on fentanyl strung out in homeless encampments all across cities? Does it come to any surprise that inflation has drove people out of homes? Does it come to any surprise that foreigners are buying up all the property here in Canada to use it as a almost a money laundering scheme? Meanwhile, these houses that the government has allowed foreign, I guess it would be. This is what I mean. I should have fucking waited. They've allowed foreign investment in our housing market to the point where now we've seen it in Vancouver. The Chinese are buying up all the goddamn condos and letting them sit empty so that way they can transfer their wealth from a communist country to a capitalist country and save their dollars. Then they move their kid over. Hey, the kid doesn't fucking, hey, who gives a shit? All our money's tied up in here. It's safe. It's a safe investment. Nobody can touch it. And I'm just going to let this fucking condo sit empty. I'm going to let this house sit empty. I don't want renters in here scuffing the walls, damaging the appliances, putting cigarettes out on the carpet. We can't be having that. But now we're to the point where the cost of a house is beyond reach for anybody. that wants to purchase a first-time home buyer in this country, good luck. I wish you well. Have a blast trying to afford a mortgage these days. You got to get a fourth job. But does it come to any surprise? And I get it. It's like, oh, you're just going to sit here and take a jab at a journalist. But it's like, let's be honest. Your dumbass hasn't taken a look around. Well, we can't be biased in our reporting. Be biased, please. At least we'll know what side you're fucking on, And I think like that also causes a problem with us and our trust in the media now is like there is some biased reporting that takes place. And we've seen it with a number of occasions that have taken place here in Canada over the past couple of years, the difference of like what's the moral high ground that everybody sits on. And it's like, well, if you think this, if you can't be having unvaccinated people at Thanksgiving dinner, you need to take them in the backyard and shoot them in the head and let their bodies rot. You got to let the earth just naturally decompose that body because we don't know what diseases it's ridden with. You need 18 vaccines. That's what you need to survive this. You need a vaccine for the housing crisis. If you don't want to be houseless, that's what's in the future, isn't it? You can get free housing as long as you get your yearly, weekly vaccine. And that's how you defeat the housing crisis. Is you go in, right? You go into the doctor and you'll be like, I'm just here for the housing crisis vaccine so that way I don't lose my condo, my 1-bedroom condo that's infested with mice that the government's supposed to be taking care of, right? Because, they're great and they're the best management system on the planet.
Not surprised. I actually, like a number of colleagues and myself, did meet with the federal advocate, and we relayed our experiences with her. I think a lot of the...
It's the thing with millennials. It's always experiences. We relate experiences. So is that what you're doing? Like, I just don't understand, I guess, what's the end goal? Are you just going out and like talking with people and then reporting back? It seems to be a lot of talk and report, and then you fundraise, and then we try and we try and get the ball rolling on some other stuff, and then like you see in Vancouver. This happens a lot in Vancouver. And I imagine like Seattle, San Francisco is a lot of these programs, they sprout up, your friend starts an outreach program. So it's like, well, I need to start one too, because it's the cool thing. It's a trendy thing to do. And instead of all just like working together and let's solve this fucking problem, now we got 19 different outreach groups, right? That are all, it's almost like a competition in a sense, which is probably good to solve a little bit of the issue. But then now we're all competing for fundraising dollars, and it's, like, can we just all work together to finish and complete one task at hand here? Can we all just get together and be like, listen, we need to solve the drug use crisis that is rampant through many of the major cities' downtown core. And they're like, okay, well, we should probably all split off and start an outreach group. What if we just all go out and talk to them? What if we just all and then we'll come back, we'll gather together, and we'll share our experiences. It's always this like I said earlier, it's like you got to find something that is worthy enough to pat yourself on the back, that your aunt that no one likes shows up and says, "Oh, wow," while screaming for another glass of Chardonnay. That's the goal here. That's if we all had that mentality, we don't have to worry about really anything but your public image. You can build your brand. And then then you put it on the internet. You show how, what a good person you are. That's what you got to do. Where I do the opposite. I like to show how shit of a human I am. That's what I like to do. I like to go, I'm going against the grain here. I'm being a bit of a pioneer. I'm an outreach worker myself. And I just like to find people with a demented view on the world that seemingly think it's appropriate to come back on a weekly basis to listen to this garbage. That's what I think is correct. Is it right? Who knows? Alt-right, you know what I'm saying? Oh, what are you fucking doing to me, man? You start clicking buttons. Again, I don't know, somebody wrote me, fucking, how did I lose that? Where did my fucking article go, you bastards? You click one fucking, there it is. You click one fucking wrong button. And then this is what you got to deal with. This show is meant to just show how real and raw it is. It's meant to just show you that people can make mistakes, People.
You work on the front lines of this crisis every single day. Were you surprised by what was in that report at all?
No, I'm absolutely not surprised.
And help us understand what it is that you're seeing out there. You are on the front.
Things encampments are going to continue to be on the rise.
And help us understand what it is that you're seeing out there. You are on the front lines every single.
That's another word that they love using right now. Is like, the front lines. You say we're on the front lines of this. Like tomorrow, everybody's going to be out on their balconies beating pots and pans again. You're on the front lines of this. We're on the front lines. When in reality, it does look like a bit of, this looks like it could be an area in Donbass, You could be mistaken. You could take this footage, re-roll it, repackage it, and be like, Putin's invading again the Ukraine, and put this all over.
Single day, what are you seeing, and what are people who are living?
Nothing. That's crazy that a guy's out there in a Canada Goose jacket, homeless, They got mopeds and all this shit there. And this poor fucker has a camera in his face and he's just sitting there being like, how am I going to solve this issue? And some asshole is standing there with a $30,000 fucking camera and a $65,000 lens attached to the fucking thing, zooming in on just a look across his face like, fuck, I can't believe, if that bitch wouldn't have left me, I'd be all right. I'd be A-okay. But here I am. I got a fucking Vespa scooter and tarps around cardboard to keep me warm this winter. Meanwhile, that bitch ended up fucking my best friend. They punt me out of the house. I lost my job. I'm drinking now. And this guy just introduced me to this thing called opioids. And here I am. And I get to look up over my right shoulder to see some dickhead with $100,000 fucking camera, just the barrel right on my face, expressing a deep concern and possibly depression. Thank you very much.
In some of these encampments, what are they telling you?
I think for a lot of people who are living in encampments, they recognize that is not the most ideal solution, but it is the only.
You don't say.
They recognize that is not the most ideal solution, but it is the only option that people have at this time.
Fire the fuck me. It is not the most ideal situation. Oh, you don't say, yeah, nothing, nothing says like I want to be here like a man down on his luck that you got a camera pointed at. Yeah. It's not the most ideal situation. You don't say. I'm over here scratching my head thinking like this would be great. This is the most ideal situation is we have thousands of unoccupied condos that have been sold to foreign shell corps to hide money. But this is ideal, which is like helped skyrocket the price of housing inside of Canada. And then on top of it, our interest rates went through the fucking roof because why not? Let's print more money. Why wouldn't we print more money? We need to print more money so that way we can buy fake bombs being made by Raytheon to send over to the Ukraine. They need more munitions over there. We need to print more money. Bombardier, get your asses in fucking gear. Let's build some shit. Build a quad. Send it over to fucking Kyiv. You know? Why the hell are we doing it? We need to print more money. See, who gives a shit if he's homeless? Don't you know that there's a fucking war going on right now? There's always those people that are floating around too. Don't you know that there's a war going on right now? Oh, forgive me. I almost forgot. Because every time I leave the house, some fucking lunatic is screaming "Free Palestine" in my face. You know? Ay. It's not the most ideal situation.
So shelters are meant to be emergency spaces, but because of the inaffordability of housing across the country, they've become de facto housing for so many people, and they can't move on from shelters into housing. And so, you know, we're hearing a lot about how expensive the cost of living is, how minimum wage is so low. We're hearing about food insecurity rising and like food bank lineups, you know, just around the block and exponentially increasing. These are all forecasts of the worsening housing crisis that we're in because we have people who are choosing to have to pay rent in order to, or choosing to not eat in order to pay rent. And so, you know, until we actually address these systemic things, people have nowhere to go, and so encampments are really the only option, and it really is life or death. People are at risk out there. You know, in the middle of winter, cold-related injuries and death are a real risk, and it happens that people freeze to death outside.
We heard in this report from...
I will say, you know what? I know that I'm sure this woman is, you know, trying her damnedest to make sure that this information is getting out there, and we applaud her for that. We do. I'm not that sinister where I'm going to sit here and act as if like this isn't an issue. It is an issue. It's a major issue. The housing crisis in Canada is getting to, it's at its boiling point. It's boiling, it's spilling over. You know, people are struggling to find jobs with AI taking over. There's job cuts, you know, coming. Corporations now we gotta raise the bottom line, you know, we gotta raise the bottom line. It's all coming to a head, and we're seeing it in real time. We're feeling it in real time. And the idea that thoughts and feelings are going to fix all of this is crazy to me, in a sense. And like, and again, I'm not shitting on this person. I believe what they're doing is probably great. Not probably. I know that in their heart they feel like they're helping out, right? They're donating their time to try and figure, like, how the fuck do we fix this? But it's a number of things that people don't want to talk about. That's the issue. It's like you got to start bringing up the topic of immigration. You know, you have to bring up right? You have to bring that up. You have to bring up the topic of jobs being cut. Meanwhile, we are bringing more people in. And as it sits right now, we don't have the housing part figured out to bring more people in, which is why you're seeing immigrants now. They get here and they're like, I've worked here for 3 months. I live in a 1-bedroom fucking apartment with 30 people. Fuck this. I'm out. You know, you're seeing this more and more. You can find it on any social media platform where they're interviewing immigrants at the airport. They're like, no, I'm done with this shit. This place is a hellhole. I had it way better back wherever the fuck I came from. I worked one job for 6 hours and my life was fine. You know, I was able to live. I could eat. I had hobbies. You come here and it's like, I gotta work 4 hours just to fucking cover my cell phone bill. And then the rest of my paycheck then is allocated to rent. And hopefully I can squeeze a few pennies out of that. So now then you talk about the rise in the food bank. Jesus. In the food bank being used so that way people can be fed, but now the donations are lower. So they're like, hey, we need more donations. It's like people are struggling enough as it is. Those that are fucking going to the food bank are also working full time trying to make ends meet. But yet we scratch our heads like, I don't know what the fuck's going on here, right? And then you look at the government and you're like, hey, can you solve this? And they're like, no, fuck, you know what? Right now is a time where we need to really focus our attention on a war, on an unjust war that is taking place with Russia and Ukraine. And this is why we need to print more money and send it over there so that way I can launder it through multiple corporations and it'll just sift into offshore accounts that aren't even directly tied to me and organizations that aren't directly tied to me. So that way I can become a billionaire by the time that, elections come rolling around, because we know my ass is going to be out. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be fine. I have $500 million in the bank. I'm good. Isn't that crazy? Trudeau's net worth now is I believe $400 or $500 million. $400 or $500 million. And we have the audacity to think that this man gives a single shit to fix any problems inside of, the country that he is prime minister of. We scratch our heads and we look at the next guy and be like, he's going to fix it all for us. As if like those problems are just going to dissipate the moment that you go to a voting booth. And I hate to be that guy, but I've lost complete trust in the electoral process as well. I think it's all horseshit. I do. I think it's just a big wrestling match, right? And your favorite wrestlers come out and they're cutting promos and we're like, Vince McMahon took a shit on a woman's head. And it's like, well, Brock Lesnar shoved his cock in a sheep out in Saskatchewan, and I'm going to wrestle that sheep at WrestleMania 54. And once I get through that sheep, Brock Lesnar, I'm going to fuck you in the mouth. So you understand what that sheep went through. But first, let me get my hands on it. And Vince McMahon, don't think that I don't want to shit on a woman's head and be a billionaire too. You don't think I want to unload a gas tank full of piss down a woman's chest? Then you're out of your goddamn mind. And it's back and forth. And we think to ourselves like, yeah, this next guy, he's going to be the one to save me. We're all fucking idiots. We are literally the plot of idiocracy at this moment in time. We got TikTok kids doing dances on planes when you're just like, you're in a captive state. You can't go anywhere. This plane's in the air. And TikTok kids got to get up and they got to let's do a little jig. Well, the plane's in the air. I got to do a little jig. I got to show my followers that look at how cool I am. It's like, can you stop? Can you stop? My fucking wife over here forgot to charge the iPad. Now I can't watch the season finale of America's Got Talent. Okay? And that was going to pass my time. But instead, now you're over here annoying me. And I'm on the verge. I'm ready to snap. Okay? I've had enough with this fucking generation. I can't go into a fucking Walmart without getting a bucket put on my head. And it's a prank, bro. It's a prank. Right? I can't walk into a Chipotle. I can't go into a Pizza Hut without a prank happening. And the prank is like, hey, do you spit or swallow? And it's like, what did you just say to her? And he's like, no, I'm talking to you. Follow me, right? Follow me. Do you gargle or rinse? Get the fuck out of here.
José Ruth, so the national housing advocate, that she'd like to see some sort of national response plan by August 31st. How realistic do you think that is?
You know, I am cautiously hopeful. I think we don't really have a choice to continue to delay this. The fact of the matter is the housing crisis has been worsening over the last number of decades, and there's no time to continue to delay waiting for more reports and research. We need all levels of government to come together. You know, I think that in Toronto specifically, we witnessed this back and forth between the feds and the city about whether they wanted to, support refugees. And I think this kind of using vulnerable people as a way to deflect responsibility is not appropriate. And so until, all three levels of government recognize that this is a crisis. We're seeing this everywhere. And they need to come together to come up with a coordinated solution.
Right? There it is. No one has a fucking plan. We're just out here running our gums. We're just running our lips over and over and over again. That's what we do. That's why you come to this show. I run my fucking lips. And we're killing it. #1 podcast in Taber, Alberta. We're murdering the competition out there. Some would say, I don't know what they would say, but that's what I don't get, is we're just running around blindly, heads out in the air, looking around. We see that there's problems, and it's just like, well, I'm just going to be in the outreach. What are we outreaching? We're like, quit reaching out. Bring it in. Bring a fucking, why don't we reach in and bring a plan to the table? Why don't we do that? That's a dumb joke. I probably come across way too aggressive on this podcast, I think, at times. And, when you have an incredibly low IQ, and I'm part of the problem, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm holier than thou, like I got a solution. I just want to sit back and just, judge these folks, like the rest of us do. Am I wrong for that? Am I wrong for sitting here and just wanting to judge people and make fun of all their silly little ideas that they want to come up with to like save the planet? We're hearing new things every day. We got to get paper straws. That'll save the planet. And then meanwhile, we got jumbo jets flying through the fucking air. And it's like, hey, well, we're going to put a cap on that. We got this new thing coming where it's called social credit scores. I think it'd be great for everybody, and we'll just hold everybody accountable, and we'll just, as it comes, because nothing, here's what I've noticed is like, just with my online dealings, is we love to just drag somebody down and beat the fuck out of them and just take and take and take. Because a lot of us, like even myself, I have a meaningless life. All right. I have a meaningless life. I understand that. I understand that my life consists of me thinking of stupid shit, taking it to a stage, saying it, whether it's outrageous, whether it's funny, and trying to figure out if it is funny, and that's my life. All right. My life used to consist of me getting gacked out of my fucking mind while guzzling copious amounts of liquor until I was on the brink of pissing my pants. All right, that's what my life consisted of. But prior to that happening, right, I would trade my time for a wage. And once that wage built up enough currency where they would, and then my time added up, and then I got the currency in form of a paper, that nice check, and I'd take it to the bank and I'd be like, please, give me some of that in cash form. I would like to go purchase illicit drugs off a nice man up the street and gamble with my life on whether or not is this cut with fentanyl or drywall dust? Which one's cheaper? Am I going to drop dead? I love to gamble with my life. Now I'm gambling with my words, and that's the only thing that I'm finding enjoyment out of. I guess that's what stand-up comedy is giving me back in return, is the horseshit that I think of in my head as I'm laying there stewing on all the silly things that I see in the world, all the silly things that I read on the internet, that I view on the internet, of all the wild, obnoxious shit that we get up to as human beings, and we record it and put it out on this fucking void, this just waste of fucking time piece of machinery that sits in our hands, and we scroll and scroll and scroll because our fucking minuscule tasks have added up at work and it became too overwhelming. So we're like, I'll just dive into Instagram for at least 2 hours of the day. I'll fucking see some tits jiggle. Maybe somebody gets blown up by a fucking, a power surge of some sort, and they get shot 500 fucking feet, and I'm gonna laugh about that because I'm a twisted bitch. I'm a silly little gaffer that runs around on that runs to dark corners of the internet to look at this wild, outrageous shit. So that way I can be immune to anything coming my way. That's how. We just got to accept this all, that what we're doing as human beings, nothing's really, is it really that important? Is anything that we're doing of any importance, I'd say like probably 0.1% of the planet is doing something that'd be like, makes sense. You know what I mean? Makes sense. Medicine makes sense. But then again, then you go down, then this is where it gets twisted, because then you're like, oh, fuck, this is all compromised industry, There's always, hey, Pfizer got more lawsuits this week. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? More lawsuits. The truth starts coming out. But we are designed to destroy, I believe. We were designed to destroy, and that's just how we were. It's just a mob mentality. We've gotten to the point, I think, where this great reset horse shit that a lot of us get. Oh, the great reset. I think it's coming. Maybe it's a form of nuclear war, and we just go back to year one, and we got to start it all over, right? We just got to go back to the days of like us just knuckle dragging, and this whole science experiment that I believe that we are under a magnifying glass just goes back. And then we see we'll get advanced again in another 2,000 years. And we'll get to the point where, tabloids are writing articles about whose pussy got shown on the red carpet. That was good. That was like the 90s was like a nice time, wasn't it? We didn't deal with a lot of like the inner workings of society that we're dealing with now. It's like we're getting into arguments over like the weed store clerk fucking being misgendered, and it's like you're what are we doing here? Neither of us are productive humans in this cog. Or in this wheel. Sorry, we're just cogs in the wheel. I don't know why I said cog. I'm getting ahead of myself. My words aren't coming up as fast as I'm thinking them. And that's what happens on this show, is you see in real time of like how dumb a human being can be when they're gifted a microphone and a soundboard. But that's how we end up with the weed store clerk fucking getting mad at you over being misgendered. And this didn't happen to me. This happened to a friend of mine. Okay. Nick McQuick gets me like accidentally like, hey, have a good night, man. And now we're so androgynous that we can't tell the difference anymore. Like the lines are too blurred. You look at something, you got to like scan. You're constantly scanning. And then like you take a shot. We're taking blind shots in the dark with this whole gender thing these days. Right. And if you miss, God forbid, this is violence. And so we're just like, we're backflipping all day long, running in the same spot we were yesterday. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever. And maybe my rantings will make sense to me one day, and I'll be able to figure out what it is that really irritates me. A lot of it just, it's irritating. I'm in a constant state of irritation. It feels like I have like fucking some sort of like rash on me that I'm constantly got to itch, and it's just irritating. It's under my skin. It's in my fucking head. You know, you lose sleep over it, and it's like that fucking, you know. So I got to take a step back some days off the internet and just like do a woosah moment, because I'm getting too ingrained in it. You know, I'm getting too ingrained in this fake world that we've created around ourselves. And not everybody exists in that. And I noticed that today is like, I had to do some running around for picking up parcels and whatnot. And it was rush hour traffic that I got stuck in. And I realized like, oh my God, I haven't had to deal with this in a while. And it didn't irritate me as it would when I was a part of like the 9 to 5 work class, I guess to say. And I noticed like I was calmer in traffic, which is unusual. And I haven't been like that because I'm so used to like, oh, got to get to the comedy club for 8 o'clock. So I leave the house at 7, or, you know, you get there you got to be early. You got to be early. And traffic is dead at 7 o'clock, and I don't care where you are. It's always, it's a little more dead at 7 o'clock. 5 o'clock, you got the rush hour traffic, you know, you're dealing with that. And I'm looking at people, I'm just analyzing the people. And there's just this deadness across their faces, you know, like the acceptance of their own reality. And you see this and you start becoming a part of it, and you're looking around and you're like, holy fuck, everybody around me in that moment is just, they're done with it. The day is over. They want to get home. But what awaits at home, you know? And that like on the in a past episode, there was like this moment that I described that most men go through. And it's that moment of like pulling up in the driveway, and you know, there's the moment you turn the ignition off, and there's that silence that you haven't heard all day. Right? There's this silence, and the truck is sitting in the driveway. Whatever you drive, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your choice of vehicle, right? And you turn that ignition off, and there's this deafening silence, and you enjoy it because it's the first moment of your day where you hear nothing. You feel nothing, you know? It's like, holy shit, you're calm. And then you snap out of that calm state, and you realize you're looking like, and then that moment of realization is when you look at the front door or whatever door, you know, maybe you pulled into the garage and you've been sitting there for a couple of minutes. And then that's when your significant other feels like there's some sort of need that they need to know what you're doing, right? Like, why are you just sitting there? What are you doing sitting there? Why are you just sitting? And then the questions start coming, and you realize like that state of irritation that I was describing earlier of like, what? It's just like, oh, I'm just being bombarded with things. And I think like most men know what I'm talking about right now. And I'm describing this moment of utopia that we all wish we could exist in, you know? Because I noticed this. I noticed this. This is something that I noticed right away. I was sitting at the table with the fellas, right? We're having a bite to eat. And there was a moment where the conversation died down. And we just like, and then that during, once that moment hit, is like the food is being passed around the table from the waitress. We all have our meal. And we just start eating. You know, everybody's enjoying their meal. They're like, oh, thinking about the day, maybe thinking about their set, thinking about whatever they want, right? And it dawned on me, and I had to break the silence. And I looked at them all, and I was like, I just realized this, that like, I think men are the only creatures that can just sit here in silence, eat a meal, and just know what we're all thinking at that. And like, all of us are thinking at the same moment, oh, this is nice. Oh, this is good. This is good. The food could be shit. But it's just like, oh, it's nice. I don't need to carry on. And I was the jackass. I broke the silence. I did. To just state the surroundings. And then everybody kind of looked at one another and was like, yeah, I guess. I never really thought about that. And it's like, men can just sit here and enjoy each other's company without having to like guess the mood. We all know the mood. We can sense the mood. And we just look at one another and like, yeah, all right. Yeah. Just had to throw that out there and I'm sorry. And I even apologized. I don't know if that's the Canadian in me or just being conscious of like, I just broke a moment that we were all having of silence and enjoying a cheeseburger and some French fries, And it's and we were in like a Hudson's or a Canadian brew house. I believe it was like a Hudson's. So it is loud. The surroundings around you is loud. There's conversations at other tables. There is still noise, but you're able to just like block it out. And it's just a nice thing that men can do when we gather with one another. It's like when the guys come over to watch the game or watch a UFC, right? There's always that moment where we're all just sitting there enjoying the not having to talk to one another moment. You know that like when you watch sports with the old lady's got questions. She wants to fucking ask questions while you're watching sports, right? There's always questions. And you say, well, why does the whistle go at that time? And you got to explain the rule. And it's fun because like now your interest, you get to pass off of like, oh, this is why this is happening. But at the same time, you think to yourself, like, this would be great if it was just me and the guy sitting here and I don't have to explain this shit, That's the joy of being a guy. I like being a guy. Which, maybe it's too easy being a man at times emotionally. And that's why tomorrow I'm cutting off my cock. I want to make my life hard. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Unclehack Podcast. Hey, if you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/dangercat69. Link is down in the bio. You can get an exclusive episode that's waiting for you. The episode that you're listening to now is always earlier than everybody else, so you get this episode earlier. That's my little trade-off, Clearly, the things that we talk about and how we speak on this show isn't attracting sponsorships. Plus, it's not, the show isn't to the point where it's garnering enough views to where, a major sponsorship wants to reach out and just hand me thousands of dollars. That's just not how this works, unfortunately. I'm not getting, I know that I am the most popular podcast in Taber, Alberta, and that speaks for itself. And that's a leg to stand on. But, a lot of, but whatever. That's my way of trying to grift. I don't know if it worked, but whatever. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/dangercat69, or head on over to dangercatshop.com. All the dates that were listed. And I forgot to tell you that May 11th, our biggest show ever in Lloydminster, Alberta, Saskatchewan. I don't know what side it's on. It don't matter. Who gives a shit? Our biggest show ever. We're going to try to do a theater, a 510 seater theater. Holy shit. Very nervous to do such a big show like that, but you know what? Hey, we're taking swings at this. We're trying to make it a thing. We're trying our fucking damnedest, and appreciate you coming around and listening to even this podcast weekly. So we thank you very much, and see you next week, 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I will be on the East Coast.